Shanti. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening. We are in many different places. So today is the Murli of 27th December, and I have retranslated it to make it just a little smoother, easier English. So the essence, this Brahman life of yours is greater than and more beneficial than the life of a deity because you become the helpers of God Himself. This is connected with karma. So when you are a deity, you do neutral karma, which means there is no benefit. There's also no loss. And all the profit that you experience in the golden and silver ages is because of your pure karma that you do as a helper of God during the confluence age. And this is why this Brahman life of yours is greater than and more beneficial than the life of a deity. The question: in what way do you help the Father, and what prize do such helpers receive? And the answer: the Father establishes a kingdom of purity and peace, and you help Him with your purity. Everything that we do that is connected with purity creates the foundation and is the seed of the future civilization. You are taking care of the sacrificial fire, the yajna, which the Father created. Because of this, you will definitely receive a reward from the Father. So what is a yajna? On the one hand, it's a fire, so that is the symbol of yoga. And secondly, there are many things that are put into that fire, different ritual items that have to be sacrificed into the fire, big things, little things. And this is symbolic of yourself. You put yourself into the yajna, you sacrifice and burn your negative sanskaras, body consciousness, etc. And in a yajna, there are Brahmins, and so there have to be Brahmins to take care of it. So this refers to Madhuban centers, the infrastructure. And there's a lot of money that is donated into a yajna. So this money is this transference of all of your wealth, whether it's money or in kind or time or talents. You sacrifice that into the yajna, and then on the other side, when it becomes the golden and silver ages, you receive the fruit of that sacrifice. Also, in a yajna, they chant mantras and they read scriptures. So this refers to the study that we do in the yajna. So what we're doing now is an activity of the yajna. So you are taking care of the sacrificial fire which the Father created. And because of this, you will definitely receive a reward from the Father. At the confluence age, you also receive the great reward of knowing the beginning, continuation, and end of the world cycle. And you become the seers of the three aspects of time. This is also the reward of bhakti, and this is also the inheritance. For the future, you will be competent and have the right to claim the throne of the world. the song. You are the mother, father, companion, master, and friend. Om Shanti. Who does this song describe? This is about the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, whose name is Shiva. His name is the highest, and his dwelling place is the highest world of light. So this sentence is actually a quote from Bhakti, and this is one of the aphorisms that is used, his name and his dwelling place. And then there's a third thing, which is his action as the highest. There is a meaning to the words Supreme Father, Supreme Soul. It means that out of all souls, this one is the highest. No one else can be called the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul. His praise or description is beyond that of anyone else. It is even said that he is so great as to be indescribable. The rishis and munis also say that he is unattainable, inaccessible, indefinable. People say that there is nothing that can describe him, as he is beyond description. And the word neti neti, it comes in very often, the word neti neti, which means it is not this, it is not that. Whatever they find, no, it is not that. And this means it is nothing in the material world. He cannot be perceived, since he is neither made of physical nor subtle matter. That's a very deep point. You can perceive something physical through your sense organs in your mind, and you can perceive something made of subtle matter in your mind. But to perceive God, who is not subtle or physical, you need to understand, and that's your third eye. So you perceive God with the third eye, which means it's not like a sense perception, but it is understanding. So at this time, the Father himself comes and introduces himself to you. That means he provides you with a description of who and what he is. Why? Because the Father must be able to be introduced. How do you children acquire an introduction to the Father? That means he has to be able to be defined and described. And he can't be defined and described unless he defines and describes himself to you, and then you relay that to others. So how do you get that? Before the present day, he had not come onto the physical earth. So that clarifies that none of the founders of religions are messengers of God in the sense of they represent him. They represent themselves. Until he comes, it is not possible to give an introduction or description of him. So only when he comes, then he says, this is me, and this is who I am, and how I am, and what I am. There is a saying that the Father reveals the Son, and then the Son can reveal the Father. So how does the Father reveal the Son? We are sons of God, souls, and he makes us aware of ourselves. And then it is possible for us to make others aware of him. The Father explains that I too have a predestined role in this drama. I have to come and purify the impure. The sages and saints also believe and call out to the purifier of the impure as Sitaram. So they address God as Sitaram. because they believe that this is the kingdom of Ravan. So Sitaram means the Lord of Sita, and Sita is a reference to the soul. Ravan refers to the power of materialism, and this is an extremely great power. This power has corrupted and disempowered the entire world. This means that the one who purifies the whole world must be the most powerful. For half the cycle of time, it is the kingdom of Ram, which means the kingdom of God. And for the other half of the cycle, it is the kingdom of Ravan. This means the kingdom of materialist perception. Every year, the devotees conduct a ceremony for burning the effigy of Ravan. However, the effigy gets replaced every year. Ravan, the power of materialism, does not get destroyed by these rituals. People say that, well, if the Supreme Being is the most powerful, then why does he allow the world to be ruled by the power of Ravan? So Baba's answer, the father explains that this is a game of victory and defeat. It is the drama of hell and heaven. This entire game is about the history of India, and it is predestined. This is the predestined drama of the world. You cannot say that if the Supreme Soul is the Almighty, why does he allow the world to become hell? They consider that he should come before the game ends, or that he should come halfway through and prevent it from going bad. The Father says, it is only when the entire human world becomes completely impure that I come. And this is why they celebrate my arrival in the festival called the Night of Shiva. So here you see a very clear distinction between the faulty logic of people and the logic of Shiv Baba. So the faulty logic of people is based on preconceptions, on linear thinking, and it's not part of the whole picture. Whereas Shiv Baba looks at everything in terms of the whole drama. And so he says, that is not possible. It's not a matter of him being powerful or not. It's a matter that he has to come when conditions are at a certain point. So it's a different logic. So we also have to see in our own selves whether we use the limited logic of normal people and moral logic, or whether we use the logic of Shiv Baba. The devotees say, we bow to Shiva, Om Namo Shivaya, we bow to Shiva. They also say, we bow to the deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar. For Shiva, they say, we bow to the Supreme Soul. They distinguish between God and deities. Is Shiva as he is portrayed in the temple of Babulnath or in the temple of Somnath? Could we say that incorporeal God has a large form represented as the Shivalingam? So you have a large oval form, usually stone, usually black. Could we say that the form of the soul is small and the form of the Supreme Soul, the Father of the soul, is large? So in the rituals, when they make the saligrams, they have a big one for Shiva, like Easter eggs, and then small ones for the saligrams. But Baba's asking, can we do that? Can we say that the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, is larger than all the other souls, which are small? No, we could not. And souls are infinitesimally small. They have no size, no length, no breadth, no thickness. And so the difference is in what's contained in them and in their power, not in their size. You can say that my definition and description is beyond physical description. I am called the seed of the human world. The Father is known as the seed. He is also called the liberator. The scriptures, such as the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Gita, together with rituals, sacrificial fires, practices of meditation, donation, and punya karma, are all part of the methods of the path of bhakti. All this takes place at its own time. For half of the kalpa, the practices of bhakti persist. And for half of the kalpa, there is the result of spiritual knowledge. The time of bhakti is called the night of Brahma. The time of the result of knowledge is called the day of Brahma. Shiv Baba has explained to you that he does not have a body of his own. He says, I am now teaching you Raj Yoga once again, so that you can lay claim to the fortune of the kingdom. Now, the night of Brahma is over, which means this is the period of time that is called the corruption of dharma. Who has been desecrated and insulted the most? It is the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, Shiva. And in the Gita, it is written, this very, very famous quote, written, which is from the 4th chapter of the Gita, 7th and 8th verses. I'm not going to recite it, not very good in pronouncing Sanskrit. But what it means is that whenever dharma is blasphemed, insulted, and desecrated, and false information is claimed to be the truth, then I come and destroy what is false and establish true karma every age. That means every confluence age between the cycles. So the Hindu religious authorities and others generally interpret this to refer to evil human behavior, and that God will make people behave in a correct way. In fact, it's not that. It refers to a narrative, a philosophy, that defines spirituality as subtle matter, and in so doing claims that God does not exist as an individual, but is the energy of matter. So this is the interpretation of Vedic philosophy. And this is what Baba's main concern is, to correct this wrong information. And the same thing is there in the other religious texts. They all focus on people's behavior. Even within BKs, most of the attention is on behavior and are you following this and following that, but very little is on the definition of God, the details that he gives, and this is actually Shrimat. So historically, this was done at the beginning of the Iron Age, And at that time, the patriarchal religious authorities were set up as judges of human good or bad behavior. And they decided what are correct or incorrect beliefs. So they made the oral traditions into scriptures, and that too very selectively. Then this becomes the focus of religious teachings. At the present time, in fact, not the present time, at that time, the beginning of the Iron Age, the Vedic religious authorities had falsified the Gita. They wrote it down according to their ideas. The main focus of Shiv Baba's teachings is to correct these falsifications. Then in terms of human behavior, his main focus is he wants a cessation of all sexual violence against women and girls. Shiv Baba says, it is not the case that I had given the knowledge in Sanskrit in the previous kalpa. I use this basic language, that is the language normally used by Dada Lekraj, who was renamed Brahma Baba. The time when the kingdom of gods and goddesses has to be established is also the time when dharma is most desecrated. I come at the time when they claim that I am the same as straw and dust. I come for the purpose of making India into the world of heaven and to purify the impure. Yet I am the one they have defamed and desecrated so much. You children know that Bharat is the most ancient land which can never be destroyed. In the Golden Age, the kingdom of Lakshmi and Narayan was on this land. The kingdom was given to them by the one who had created heaven in this place. At the present time, this same land of Bharat has become completely impure, and therefore I must come again. This is the reason why they honor me, saying, I bow to Shiva. Within this unlimited drama, the roles of each soul is predestined, and it is repeating once again. The storytellers have taken bits and pieces of this and created legends out of it. At the present time, we are Brahmins, and we will become deities. This is the godly caste. Brahmins. We are made into Brahmins by God through the mouth of Brahma. So Brahmins have to be twice born, and they have to be born through the mouth, lotus birth. This is the end of your 84th birth. You now have information about the 4 castes that you have passed through during your 84 births. So first deity, then Kshatriya, the warrior, then the merchant, then the Shudra, and now the Brahmin. This is why your current birth in the Brahmin caste is the most elevated of all the castes that you have passed through. However, you are honored and worshipped as deities, which refers to the time when you became deities as a result of your study and practice during your Brahmin life. There are temples to Brahma, but no one knows that the Supreme Soul came into his body and through him made this world of Bharat into heaven. Since the process of establishment is going on, the process of destruction is also required. And this is why it is said that the fire of destruction emerges from the sacrificial fire of the knowledge given by Rudra. At this time, that same Supreme Father is explaining to you, saying, "Sweet children, now, this is your last life. Once again, I have come in order to give you the inheritance of heaven. It is your right, but it is only those who follow my Shrimat whom I will reward with heaven. Those people give each other prizes. However, the Father gives all of you the reward of heaven." The Sheikh Baba says, "I will not take the reward of heaven. I establish heaven through you, and I will give it to you. You are the grandsons of Sheikh Baba, the children of Brahma." So you cannot receive an inheritance except from a grandfather. So for God to be your grandfather, you have to have Brahma as your father. I adopt so many children through the medium of Prajapita Brahma. This Brahman life of yours is the highest of all your lives. This is the life in which you evolve. You attain benefit only in this life. This life of yours is very profitable because you live a life of purity by which you help the Father to establish the world of peace and purity. Those people do not know who will receive the reward of heaven. The Nobel Peace Prize may be given to an American. The Father says, "I will give the prize to those who become my helpers." Only those who live a pure life can cause there to be peace and prosperity in the world. At the moment, the world resembles a brothel. The world of heaven is like the temple of God. Shiv Baba had established it. These sadhus and sannyasis teach and practice Hatha Yoga. Even if they read the Gita and the Mahabharata 1,000 times, they are still not in a position to teach Sahaj Raj Yoga to people who live in the context of their work and family. So note that Sahaj means easy, but more than anything, it means in the context of people. Shiv Baba is the father of every soul. Those of every religion tell each other to focus their attention on me, the One. I have the form of an infinitesimal point of light. I am not a large object. Just as the soul is an infinitesimal point of light, so am I, the Supreme Soul. The seat of the soul is in the center of the forehead. If the soul were large, how could it sit in the center of the forehead? I also am a soul, infinitely tiny. The difference is that I am free from the cycle of death and rebirth, and I remain perpetually pure. All human souls must pass through the cycle of death and rebirth, and all of them must change from pure to impure, and then, in the confluence age, from impure to pure. Once again, I have come in order to purify everyone, the impure to pure. And for this reason, the Father of all souls, I create this sacrificial fire of Rudra. After this, in the Golden Age, there will be no further sacrificial fires. Then, from the time of the Copper Age, there are many forms of sacrificial fires created by the devotees. This sacrificial fire of the knowledge of Rudra is established only once in the entire Kalpa. All people, places, and things will be sacrificed into this fire. And after this, no sacrificial fire will be created. Sacrificial fires are established at such times when there are catastrophes. After the catastrophe of the destruction of the world, there will be no further sacrificial fires. Sacrificial fires are only created when there is a catastrophe. For example, when there is a drought or some other natural disaster, then they set up sacrificial fires. There are no catastrophes during the Golden and Silver Ages. At the present time, there are many forms of natural disasters, and this is why the greatest in the world, Shiv Baba, has created this sacrificial fire. In advance of its creation, I gave you visions. You were shown in visions how the natural catastrophes would occur. You saw how the global world war would occur. You saw how the whole world became a cemetery. And having seen that, you lost your attraction for the old world. And this is why you children have been able to maintain an attitude of unlimited renunciation for the whole old world. So Brahma Baba specifically received these visions and narrated them. And many BKs at that time, or people who were not yet BKs, also saw these things. Even now, sometimes when they come into Gyan, they see these things. Those sannyasis merely renounce their homes and family. You do not leave your homes or families. At the same time as taking care of your homes and families, you simply break your attachment to them. You see everything as if it were already gone, and everyone as if they had already died. Therefore, your heart is not attached to them. You realize that this is a world of corpses, and this is why it is said, remember the world of paradise. Why should you be preoccupied with a world that is like a cremation ground? Now, this is a very well-known saying in Hinduism. Brahma Baba has become an agent, and he is helping you to focus your attention on the one who is higher. You know the saying, the soul and the Supreme Soul were separated for a long time, and ultimately there was a beautiful meeting through an agent. Brahma Baba is indeed that agent. Those iron-aged gurus cannot be considered as purifiers of the impure. Neither can they enable you to attain salvation. Salvation means to reach the two destinations, the soul world and the golden age. They only recite the scriptures and perform rituals. Shiv Baba does not have a teacher or a guru. He says, I have come in order to give you the inheritance of heaven. And then it is up to you whether you go to the dynasty of the sun or the dynasty of the moon. Can you attain this through war? No. Neither Lakshmi and Narayan nor Ram and Sita achieved their kingdoms through war. These souls had attained victory by conquering Maya at this time. You are incognito warriors who are becoming the masters of the entire world. You had lost the kingdom of the world, and now you are achieving it. The Father is the one who is giving you this as your reward. Now, whoever becomes a helper of the Father will receive the reward of peace and prosperity for half the kalpa. The helpers of the Father are those who practice to be bodiless, soul-conscious, and remember the Father. They rotate the cycle of self-realization. They remain in remembrance of the world of silence, the sweet home, as well as the sweet kingdom. And they live a life of purity. It is very simple. We souls are also infinitesimally tiny stars. Our Father, the Supreme Soul, is also an infinitely tiny star. God is not something massive. But in order to perform rituals of worship, they have created the large oval form to represent God. Rituals of worship were initially performed for God the Father alone, and later on, they started to worship the idols of others. They honor and worship the idols of Lakshmi and Narayan so much. But who had made Lakshmi and Narayan into deities? It was the one who brings everyone to the state of Sadgati. Sadgati means the perfect state in a perfect environment. So it is the Supreme Father who does this. Therefore, everyone honors him. The memorial of his birth is worth diamonds. In comparison, celebration of the birthday of other founders of religions is not worth anything. They say, we bow to Shiva. This is his sacrificial fire of knowledge, which was created through you Brahmins. He says, those who helped me to establish purity and peace will receive great fruit from me. The sacrificial fire was established through the Brahmins, and therefore donations are given into this sacrificial fire. This is the most massive sacrificial fire. No other sacrificial fire has been created that continues for so long. He says, whoever helps me to whatever extent, so accordingly I will reward them. I am the one who rewards everyone. I do not take anything for myself. but I am the one who gives to all. So whatever you do for this purpose, you will receive the benefit. If you do just a little, then you will become a subject. When Gandhi did his work, whoever helped him to a great extent became president or ministers once independence was achieved. They received temporary prosperity and position. The Father is giving you knowledge of the entire beginning, continuation, and end of the creation. And he is making you into the seers of the three aspects of time, just as he is. He says, by knowing my biography, you come to know all things. Very deep and powerful sentence to be churned. The sannyasis cannot give this knowledge. What inheritance can anyone receive from them? Only one person will inherit their throne when they die. What will any of the others receive? Baba will give a throne to all. He is serving selflessly, and yet you had insulted and desecrated him so much by claiming that he is just dust and sand. The drama was made like that. When you become worth nothing but shells, then I come and make you as valuable as diamonds. I made India into heaven countless times, and then Maya made it into hell. Now, if you wish to achieve something, then become my helpers and take the authentic reward. For this, purity is the most important. The Father also praises the sannyasis. They are also good. Those among them who practice purity became the buttresses for India. You may not know this word buttress, but the cathedrals of Europe that were built 1,000 years ago were built to last for 1,000 years, but after 500 years, the ground shifted beneath them and they started to tilt. So particular architecture called a buttress was built to prevent them from sinking down. So it pushes the cathedral from one side. This is called a buttress. So the sannyasis buttressed India, they maintained it, they stopped it from falling down. So otherwise, who knows what would have happened to this society. So they held India together by their purity. However, now is the time to make India into heaven. So therefore stay in your homes and family and live in purity. Both the father and the grandfather are instructing you children. Shiv Baba is advising you through the medium of this old shoe. So Brahma Baba is basically a human body, which is basically made of leather, and it's an old one. So Shiv Baba is using it. So he sits in the body and wears it like a shoe, but it's an old one. Shiv Baba cannot take a new body. He does not take birth through a mother's womb. He has to come into the impure world and into an impure body. In this Kali Yuga, there is extreme darkness, and he has come in order to bring total illumination into this dark world. Gotcha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning. And the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children, and the spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father.
Sister Denise, again, you translated some words in a different way. For example, Ravan, rather than again giving us the image of this, with 10 heads. And to put it, you said it is materialism. And this is such a great power. So, on one hand, there is this power of materialism, which is disrupting the power of the world. And yet, on the other hand, is the power of God, who is incorporeal, and the energy is something which we need our third eye to perceive. And so it's like just looking at this, just considering this, then we can understand really the effort that we need to make coming from materialism and going into a very subtle state, to be with Baba, to remember Baba.
That's right. But also, what I'm trying to convey is that the third eye is not about having an experience, but it's about understanding. And many people, they determine or they judge whether or not their meditation is good or bad by how they feel. And that's okay when Baba's giving us wonderful, marvelous, experiences, which is his kind of advertising. But the real stuff is to be able to understand it and operate from deep understanding. You see, the problem when the religions were codified in terms of scriptures, which was a long, long time after they were established, but nevertheless, the religious authorities of the time considered human beings as males and females, and that's the first body consciousness. That's materialism. You see the body, you see the gender, so you get a gender bias. Then you see the race, then you get a race bias. Then you see who's in the dominant community and who's in the subjugated community, and then you get that kind of bias as well. And so all of these justifications for man's inhumanity to man come from that. He removes all the justifications, and nobody has any justification that cannot be argued away. And this is really, really powerful. And I think very few people really get that.
So recognition of God is really understanding.
Yes, but it's also, it depends on who you are. It's such a weird thing. You cannot recognize God unless you recognized him the last kalpa. And you recognize him every kalpa. And so some people recognize him and some people don't. And then the other people say, well, that's not fair because everybody should have a shot. But he says, the way people process ideas, the way they create their moral logic is not the same as what he says about how the way things are, because he says, you cannot become somebody else. You can only be yourself. You are a soul, and that soul is who you remain through many incarnations, and you cannot change your fixed part in drama. And this power of predetermination is really enormous. And the people who are based in a culture and education of democracy, of free will, freedom of expression, human rights, all these things, which are the big philosophy of the present day, he says, well, the foundation of it is actually not viable. And so he's giving us a very different foundation, which means we have to think very differently. And this is very difficult because people believe in these things and they're not going to go away from that because they also believe that something which is not that is inferior. And then he's saying, well, actually, it's not inferior, but you need to understand it well and deeply. And this is why the study is important. Study is going into the depth of it. And this is what we're trying to do in this format of looking at the Murli, is try and see, what's going on deep down, what's behind the lines.
What is punya karma?
Yeah, I left it in the Hindi because normally it gets translated as charity. And charity is charity, and punya karma includes charity, but it's not limited to charity. So, for example, if you're meditating and you're communing and connected to God in your meditation, that is punya karma. If you're living a life of purity, that is punya karma. If you are non-violent, that is punya karma. So it's really, pure karma. But if you just say in English pure karma, then people won't know how far to take it. And so I'm trying to bring in some of these Hindi words because they have a meaning that is way beyond anything that we could translate, because it's not in the English speaking culture to think of karma that way. Whereas in India, in Hindu Bhakti, they do have an idea about punya karma, which is quite a lot beyond just charity, but also there are some things that they think is punya, which is not. Like, for example, forcing your daughter into marriage against her will is called punya karma. And then we would say, oh, no, 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 you can't do that. Or child marriage, this is punya karma in bhakti. And Shiv Baba says, well, we don't need to worry about marriage because what he wants is celibacy. Because his main thing is he wants to keep people free from sexual violence and also keep people free from the dominated relationship, and make people very aware of their androgyny. Something new.
Sister Denise, may I request you to say a few words before we close, since we will be welcoming 2024 in a few days.
Well, yes, 2024. I think most people, including the astrologers, anticipate that 2024 will be a difficult year. The climate change will be more intense, widespread, and bothersome. The wars that are going on don't look like they're ending anytime soon. They may extend and expand and proliferate. So there's quite a lot of negative stuff that will be there. But hidden behind those clouds, there can be some very, very powerful positive things. Because the confluence age is the age where everything goes into extreme. So that means that if the bad things are going to go into extreme, well, the good things are too. And so take a look at your practice, your meditation, and begin to see how all of this investment of time, wealth, energy, attention is coming to maturity. And you will start receiving the fruits, because Baba often said, the fruits of this practice are not just in the golden age, they're for here and now as well. But of course, it takes time to reach there. And there are many people, I think, who are part of this gathering who have been doing the practice for a long time. We've been through many, many steps, many terrains, and I feel that it's definitely a time when we're seeing the fruits of our labors coming, and that is a really wonderful thing. So I wish everyone such wonderful fruits of their labors, and prosperity, love, attention, care, success, and recognition. All of these things, I'm sure, will be happening more and more. So many blessings to everyone. And thank you for your wonderful participation in this. And all our translators, I hope I wasn't going too fast this time. And thank you, Sister Rose, and the background behind all of this, keeping it all on the road, is Maggie. So thanks to everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Om Shanti.